Welcome to Wikipedia to fall asleep to. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let your thoughts drift as we wander together through Akhtar Ali Vario. Shohri Akhtar Ali Vario was a Pakistani politician and head of the Vario family of Sialkot district, Punjab province. He was one of the founding members of the Pakistan Muslim League, Junejo, and was elected as a member of the National Assembly of Pakistan and member of the Provincial Assembly of Punjab several times. He was awarded the title of Kingmaker by Benazir Bhutto. Early life. Vario was born in Gurdaspur district in 1937 on March 15th, in a Punjabi family of Muslim Gujars. His father, Shohri Ghulam Ahmed Ali Zaildar, was a prominent personality of his area who migrated to Pakistan with his family in 1947. Political career. Vario began his political career in local governance, serving as the director of the Central Cooperative Bank from 1973 to 1975. In the 1979 local government elections, he was elected as the chairman of the District Council Sialkot and was re-elected to the same office in 1983. In the 1985 non-party general elections, he was elected as a member of the Provincial Assembly, MPA, from PP 143, Sialkot, and was appointed as the Special Assistant to the Chief Minister. He was re-elected in 1988 as a representative of the Islami Jamhuri Ittihad from PP 104, Sialkot, and was given the portfolio of Minister for Communication and Works by Chief Minister Nawaz Sharif. In these elections, his brother Shohri Abdul Sattar Vario won the National Assembly seat of NA 88 after Sharif vacated the seat in favor of his provincial constituency. In the 1990 elections, he contested from two constituencies, PP 103 and PP 106, Sialkot, and won both. He chose to retain the PP 106 seat. In the same polls, his brother again won the National Assembly seat of NA 88, while his son Shohri Kush Akhtar Subhani won the PP 104 seat, becoming an MPA for the first time, and later serving as chairman of the Standing Committee on Food. In the 1993 elections, Vario contested from the Pakistan Muslim League Junejo for the National Assembly seat NA 86 and became a member of the National Assembly, MNA, by defeating CH. Amir Hussain, a former Speaker of the National Assembly. He was appointed as the chairman of the Standing Committee on Narcotics. In the same election, he also contested for the provincial seat PP 106, defeating Sid Iftikhar ul Hassan, but chose to retain his National Assembly seat. His brother, Shohri Abdul Sattar Vario, won his third term as MNA from NA 88 and became the Federal Minister for Industries. In the same elections, his son Ch. Kush Akhtar Subhani became MPA from PP 104 and was awarded the Ministries of Population Welfare, Prisons, Housing and Physical Planning, and Environmental Planning in Wadu's cabinet. He later joined the PMLQ and played an important role in the party's success in the 2001 local body elections, in which their candidates secured 61 Union Council Nazim seats out of a possible 124 in Sialkot district. Imprisonment: he was imprisoned during 2002 to 2003 by the National Accountability Bureau, who accused him of corruption charges, but was acquitted by Lahore High Court, which deemed the case against him not to be strong enough. Death: Akhtar Ali died at the age of 76 in Services Institute of Medical Sciences on 16th of June 2008 after being in a coma for 5 days. He was suffered from diabetes and heart disease. He was buried on 17th of June in village of Vario, Sialkot. And now a new story begins. Mountain, North Dakota. Mountain is a city in Thingvalla Township, Pembina County, North Dakota, United States. The population was 80 at the 2020 census. Mountain was founded in 1884. The community was the destination of many Icelandic immigrants who began arriving in 1879. Gerhard, a former Prime Minister of Iceland, attended the annual 2nd of August celebration in 2007. During his visit, city officials told Hard about a goal to raise $1.3 million for a new community center. The government of Iceland has since donated $75,000 towards the center. The center was completed in 2016. History: in the spring of 1878, a small group of Icelanders came from Canada to explore Dakota territory. Pastor Paul Thorlaksson is known as the father of the Icelandic settlement in Dakota, which is centered around the city of Mountain, first known by the name Vik, which means cove. Mountain was officially laid out in 1884. The city was named on account of its lofty elevation. A post office called Mountain has been in operation since 1881. The Vicar Lutheran Church at Mountain was built in 1884. Geography: according to the United States Census Bureau, the city has a total area of 0.14 square miles, 0.36 square kilometers, all land. 2010 census: as of the census of 2010, there were 92 people, 30 households and 14 families residing in the city. The population density was 657, 1 inhabitants per square mile, 253, 7/km2. There were 42 housing units at an average density of 300, 0 per square mile, 115, 8/km2. The racial makeup of the city was 97, 8% white, 1% Native American, and 1% from other races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 1% of the population. There were 30 households, of which 3% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 0% were married couples living together, 0% had a female householder with no husband present, 7% had a male householder with no wife present, and 3% were non-families. 7% of all households were made up of individuals, and 3% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 1.73 and the average family size was 2.43. The median age in the city was 65, 5 years. 6. 5% of residents were under the age of 18. 3. 4% were between the ages of 18 and 24. 13% were from 25 to 44. 26% were from 45 to 64. And 1% were 65 years of age or older. The gender makeup of the city was 44. 6% male and 4% female. 2000 census. As of the census of 2000, there were 133 people, 43 households, and 26 families residing in the city. The population density was 978, 4 inhabitants per square mile, 377, 8/km2. There were 55 housing units at an average density of 404, 6 per square mile, 156, 2/km2. The racial makeup of the city was 99, 25% white and 75% Native American. There were 43 households, out of which 6% had children under the age of 18 living with them, 44. 2% were married couples living together, 16. 3% had a female householder with no husband present, and 39. 5% were non-families. 37. 2% of all households were made up of individuals, and 9% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.16 and the average family size was 2.81. In the city, the population was spread out with 5% under the age of 18, 3% from 18 to 24, 12, 8% from 25 to 44, 18, 0% from 45 to 64, and 47, 4% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 64 years. For every 100 females, there were 87, 3 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 76, 2 males. The median income for a household in the city was $23,750, and the median income for a family was $31,875. Males had a median income of $28,750 versus $25,625 for females. The per capita income for the city was $12,237. There were 9% of families and 8% of the population living below the poverty line, including 1% of under 18s and 3% of those over 64. Notable person Einar Jonasson, politician in Manitoba, was born in the area but moved with his family to Canada in 1888. Let us drift gently now toward Edward Poynter. Sir Edward John Poynter, 1st Baronet, was an English painter, designer, and draftsman who served as president of the Royal Academy. Life Poynter was the son of architect Ambrose Poynter. He was born in Paris, France, though his parents returned to Britain soon after his birth. He was educated at Brighton College and Ipswich School, but left school early for reasons of ill health, spending winters in Madeira and Rome. In 1853, he met Frederick Leighton in Rome, who made a great impression on the 17-year-old Poynter. On his return to London, he studied at Lee's Academy in Newman Street and the Royal Academy Schools, before going to Paris to study in the studio of the classicist painter Charles Glayer, where James McNeill Whistler and George du Maurier were fellow students. In 1866, Poynter married the famous beauty Agnes MacDonald, daughter of the Rev. G. B. MacDonald of Wolverhampton, and they had 3 children. Her sister Georgiana married the artist Edward Burne-Jones. Her sister Alice was the mother of writer Rudyard Kipling, and her sister Louisa was the mother of 3 times Prime Minister of the United Kingdom Stanley Baldwin. Poynter's sister, Clara Bell, became a noted translator of literary and scientific works. He became best known for his large historical paintings such as Israel in Egypt, 1867, Guildhall Art Gallery, London, followed by St. George for England, a mosaic for the central lobby of the Palace of Westminster, depicting St. George and the Dragon, and perhaps culminating with the visit of the Queen of Sheba to King Solomon, 1884–90, Art Gallery of New South Wales, Sydney. He was admitted as an associate of the Royal Academy in 1869. Poynter held a number of official posts. He was the first Slade Professor at University College London from 1871 to 1875, Principal of the National Art Training School from 1875 to 1881, and Director of the National Gallery from 1894 to 1904, overseeing the opening of the Tate Gallery. He became a full Royal Academician in 1876. In 1896, on the death of Sir John Millais, Poynter was elected President of the Academy. He received a knighthood in the same year, and an honorary degree from Cambridge University in 1898. It was announced that he would receive a baronetcy in the 1902 Coronation Honours List, published on 26 June 1902, for the subsequently postponed coronation of King Edward VII, and on 24 July 1902 he was created a baronet of Albert Gate in the city of Westminster in the county of London. Poynter's old school, Brighton College, held an exhibition of Poynter's paintings and drawings entitled Life at Arm's Length in its Burstow Gallery in December 1995. Stained glass. Early in his career, Poynter designed some works in stained glass. Parts of the original designs were sometimes reused in later windows. Next, we turn softly to the Emerald Atlas. The Emerald Atlas is the first novel of the children's fantasy trilogy, The Books of Beginning by John Stevens. The second book, The Fire Chronicle, was released in 2012. The book follows orphan siblings Kate, Michael, and Emma who, following a succession of unsuccessful orphanage dwellings, are transferred to the mansion of Dr. Pym, where they find a magical book that grants the power of moving through time. Upon traveling to the past, they happen across a witch who has enslaved the nearby town, Cambridge Falls, in an attempt to find the book, known as the Atlas, that the children possess. As the siblings encounter various magical races in an effort to dispel the witch, Kate discovers that she is intrinsically bound to the Atlas, and that the 3 children are subject to an ancient prophecy. Plot: Kate, Emma, and Michael are siblings shifted from one orphanage to another over their lifetimes. Kate, the eldest, remembers that 10 years ago on Christmas Eve, her mother had made her promise to protect her siblings, and in turn promised the family's reunion. After their rejection by a prospective adoptive mother, the children's current residence, called the Edgar Allan Poe Home for Incorrigible and Hopeless Orphans, sends them to a mansion situated in Cambridge Falls. There they are introduced to its owner, Dr. Stanislaus Pym, and explore the house. In the basement, a door appears before them, and they discover an emerald-colored book containing no text. When an old photograph is touched to a page of the open book, the children are teleported to the date and location on which the photograph was taken. There, the children observe a witch, titled the Countess, vowing to kill a child every week until the enslaved fathers of the children find what she seeks. The Countess notices the three orphans and calls upon her grotesque henchmen, designated Screechers, to capture them. Kate and Emma escape, but Michael is accidentally left behind. His sisters return to save him but lose the book, the eponymous Emerald Atlas. In escape, they are hunted by wolves, meet someone named Gabriel, and enter a subterranean maze where Kate and Michael are captured by dwarves. There they discover a 15 years younger Dr. Pym, with whom they recover the Emerald Atlas. Upon finding it, Kate is drawn into an earlier time where she again meets Dr. Pym and thence returns to the time she most recently left. Emma, having tarried with Gabriel to repel the Countess's followers, is shot with a poisonous arrow, but is saved by Gabriel's wisewoman, Granny Pete. Once healed, Emma, backed by the wisewoman, sways the townsfolk into war against the Countess. After their victory, the witch herself remains to be conquered and holds the imprisoned children on a boat. Kate, now chosen by the Atlas, can travel to any time while in possession of it, but in exchange for the local children's lives, surrenders it. The Countess seizes the book, but is punished by her master, the dire Magnus, who reveals that Kate and her siblings are the rightful owners of the Atlas and the two other books of beginning until, upon the completion of a prophecy, he claims it. After Kate and Dr. Pym rescue the local siblings, she and her siblings return to their own time, where Kate is approached by the Countess. Using the Atlas, Kate drags the Countess into Racotes during its conquest by Alexander the Great. In plea, the Countess tells Kate that her mother and father are captives of the dire Magnus, as bait to lure the siblings into retrieving the books of beginning, a trio of volumes enabling command over reality, of which the Atlas is the first, in exchange for their parents' release. Kate then leaves her in Racotes and returns to her own time, where Dr. Pym explains the books. Characters: Kate, the oldest of the protagonists, and the rightful owner of the Emerald Atlas, which allows her to travel through time and space. She is the only protagonist that truly remembers her mother and father. Her mother bequeathed a heart-shaped locket to her when she was young before they left 10 years ago. Michael, the second oldest of the protagonists. His father gave him a book about dwarfs, The Dwarf Omnibus by G. Greenleaf, when he was young, and since then, Michael has been fascinated with them. Somehow, His glasses always seem to end up in the toilet. Emma, the youngest of the protagonists. She is very headstrong and has a short temper. According to her orphanage file, she has been in a documented 23 fights with other children and has won all of them. The Countess, an evil witch who serves the dire Magnus. She held the children of Cambridge Falls hostage to force their fathers to help her find the books of beginning. She is later dumped in the past by Kate. The dire Magnus, the main antagonist of the story. He is in search of the books of beginning. Dr. Stanislaus Pym, a wizard who knew Kate, Michael and Emma's parents and bade them go into hiding. He helps the children discover the books of beginning and how to use them. Gabriel, Emma's best friend who helps them on their journey. Critical reception was mixed to positive, with critics praising the narrative complexity and fantasy scope, but criticizing how much of the material was derivative of other popular fantasy books, such as those by Tolkien, Pullman, Rowling, Snicket, and Lewis. Kirkus Reviews wrote positively that the main characters have a likable voice, and the elaborate story doesn't feel overcomplicated. The Guardian gave a lukewarm review, saying that while it is bright and energetic and has some exciting set pieces, it possesses an everything including the kitchen sink approach to children's fantasy that it can't quite marshal into overall coherence. Additionally, it wrote, children will spot so many bits from other children's fantasies that it could almost be a game, and concluded by saying the novel threatened magic without ever quite delivering. The New York Times said Stevens spins a tightly paced, engaging yarn, even if his prose can be lurchingly expository. Let your mind wander now to Bicycle Race. Bicycle Race is a song by the British rock band Queen. It was released on their 1978 album Jazz and written by Queen's lead singer Freddie Mercury. It was released as a double A-side single together with the song Fat Bottomed Girls, reaching number 11 in the UK singles chart and number 24 in the Billboard Hot 100 in the US. The song is included in their 1981 Greatest Hits compilation. The song is notable for its video featuring a bicycle race with nude women at Wimbledon Stadium. The controversial video was edited or even banned in several countries. The song itself has appeared in various media with a bicycle theme. Composition: the song was written by Freddie Mercury and was inspired by watching the 18th stage of the 1978 Tour de France passing Montreux, where the band were recording jazz in mountain studios. It starts with a chorus unaccompanied by instruments. The chorus is followed by two verses connected with a bridge, both followed by a chorus. Around the middle of the song is a solo played with numerous bicycle bells. The song has an unusual chord progression with numerous modulations, a change of meter from 44 to 34 in the bridge, and multi-tracked vocal and guitar harmonies, all in keeping with the band's progressive rock roots. Reception Cashbox called it a jaunty theatrical tribute to bike riding. Record World said that it combines inventive lyrics and harmonies with class. The lyrics are topical for the time and contain social, political, and pop culture references, such as religion, the Vietnam War, Watergate, cocaine, fictional characters, Peter Pan, Frankenstein, and Superman, and the films Jaws and Star Wars. Brian May has said that the song was not an autobiographical portrait of Mercury, and that Mercury did not particularly enjoy bicycling, also noting that despite the lyric, "I don't like Star Wars," Mercury was a Star Wars fan. The song references the band's song, Fat-Bottomed Girls, with the line, "Fat-bottomed girls, they'll be riding today." Fat-bottomed girls reciprocates with "Get on your bikes and ride." The two songs were released together as a double A-sided single. Music video filmed by Denise de Valence. The promotional video featured 65 nude women, all professional models, bicycle racing at Wimbledon Greyhound Stadium, southwest London. The group rented the stadium and several dozen bicycles for one day for filming the scene. However, when the renting company became aware of the way their bikes were used, they requested that the group purchase all the bicycle seats. The original video used special effects to hide the nudity. However, due to the nudity, the video was age-restricted on YouTube and banned in several countries, including China. Distribution: the song was released as a single and is also included in the following albums and box sets: Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, 15 of the Best, Queen Live in Concert, Greatest Hits, and the Singles Collection Volume 1. The single was mostly distributed in 1978 on 7-inch vinyl records, with Fat-Bottomed Girls on the B-side and EMI record label. In Argentina, the titles were translated as Carrera de Bicicletas and Chicas Gordas, respectively. The labels were changed to Pepita in Hungary and to Elektra in the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. The Polish issue had the label of Tonpress and either Spread Your Wings or Nothing on the B-side. Both 7-inch and 12-inch records were issued in the US. There the song also appeared in 1979 on the B-side of the single Crazy Little Thing Called Love. In nearly all countries, the covers featured a backside photo of a naked woman on a racing bike, with a red bikini painted over the original photo. A brassiere was added to the U.S. covers. Personnel: Freddie Mercury, lead and backing vocals, piano, bicycle bells, Brian May, guitars, backing vocals, bicycle bells, Roger Taylor, drums, backing vocals, bicycle bells, John Deacon, bass guitar, bicycle bells. Sample: the song's chorus was sampled by Eminem in Come On, Let Me Ride by Skylar Grey. Alternate artwork: a bicycle race with nude women was held to promote the jazz album, the single, and the Fat-Bottomed Girls single. This photo was included as a fold-out poster with the album Jazz. It was also included as an alternate single cover. Our next topic tonight is plural policing. Plural policing is a term that describes the idea that the police cannot work on their own as the sole agency to deal with the wide range of issues that they are expected to deal with in the present day. It draws on the idea of a mixed economy, and so is also sometimes referred to as mixed economy policing. Plural policing relates to the wide range of other agencies, both public, private, and charity, that work towards the generic aim of law enforcement. The idea of plural policing was first considered in an article by Les Johnson in 1993 entitled Privatization and Protection: Spatial and Sectoral Ideologies in British Policing and Crime Prevention, in the Modern Law Review. 10 years later, he expanded on this initial work in a further article. Definition: there are several different forms that the idea of plural policing and the extended police family can take, as outlined by Ian Loader. He names these as by the government, consisting of traditional public police forces through the government, through the awarding of public sector contracts to private companies such as G4 or GO-AMI, as in the UK, with the 2012 Summer Olympics above the government, international security and policing arrangements such as Interpol beyond the government, private companies undertaking private security arrangements, such as campus police in the U.S., or licensed premises security through the Security Industry Authority in the UK. It can also include private policing initiatives, such as My Local Bobby below the government, private citizens undertaking law enforcement activities, such as Neighborhood Watch schemes, plural policing in the United Kingdom within the United Kingdom. Plural policing can also refer to the extended police family. The history of plural policing in the UK can be traced back to the work of Athelstan Popkes, who in 1959 proposed the idea of a body of men, eager for police work, but barred by height or age to deal with trifling motoring offenses like illegal parking and obstruction, to the Home Secretary Ernest Marples and his professional colleagues. This led to the creation of traffic wardens, the first public-facing civilian role in policing. Law enforcement in the United Kingdom extended family can include civilians who form part of the modern landscape of policing, such as civilian detention officers and police community support officers, roles created under the Police Reform Act 2002, intended to free up the time of warranted constables. It can also include the special constabulary volunteer officers with the same powers as regular police officers and non-home office, special police forces such as the British Transport Police, Ministry of Defence Police, and the Civil Nuclear Constabulary. It can also include national crime-fighting organizations such as the National Crime Agency and regional organized crime units, as well as national intelligence coordination agencies such as National Fraud Intelligence Bureau and National Vehicle Crime Intelligence Service. Multi-agency safeguarding hubs, the plurality of policing, is perhaps best exemplified by the idea of the multi-agency safeguarding hubs, MASH. These are dedicated permanent multi-agency cooperatives where professionals from agencies such as social care, National Probation Service, Women's Aid, education authorities, social housing providers, and independent domestic violence advisors all work together in the same office, all with the aim of safeguarding vulnerable adults and children. This allows for the most effective and instantaneous information sharing, all with the intention of preventing and reducing future harm to higher risk victims. Community policing is another area where plural policing can be seen. PCSO are deployed as part of the extended policing family to interact with the communities they serve in an effort to increase police legitimacy and also gather police intelligence. Special constables are also commonly deployed on community-related activities to provide additional resources. Outside of the police, private and charity agencies also participate heavily in community policing, whether it is university or hospital security teams working with the police to reduce crime and disorder within their establishments, or neighborhood watch schemes or Crime Stoppers, UK helping to combat local criminality. Large events such as music festivals, sporting events, or beer festivals are examples of activities who are expected to provide their own extensive security arrangements, commonly using private companies. Quite often these events will also have a police presence, but this is significantly smaller than may be expected as the private security firms take primacy, with the police officers only dealing with more serious criminality that can't be handled by the private security. Terrorism under the government's contest strategy to combat terrorism, particularly the Prevent strand. The police are expected to work with other law enforcement and intelligence bodies such as the Joint Terrorism Analysis Center, MI5, MI6, and the National Crime Agency, as well as non-traditional partners such as schools, universities, community groups, youth groups, and faith groups to identify people at risk of radicalization. The outside agencies are required to refer those they suspect of developing extreme views to the program, so that the government agencies can attempt to de-radicalize them in order to prevent terrorist attacks. Our next topic tonight is Arthur Nevill. Air Vice Marshal Sir Arthur de Terrat Nevill was a New Zealand military aviator and administrator. Biography: the brother of Geoffrey, who would later become Resident Commissioner of the Cook Islands. Nevill attended the Royal Military College of Australia from 1916 until 1919, and was appointed a lieutenant in the New Zealand Army in 1919, and held various staff and regimental appointments in New Zealand from 1921 until 1930, when he transferred to the New Zealand Permanent Air Force at its establishment on 1st of April 1930. During that time, he had been appointed as New Zealand Liaison Officer to the Air Ministry, and he continued there until 1935. In 1937, he was appointed as Air Member for Supply to the Air Board of the newly organized Royal New Zealand Air Force, RNZAF. As such, he was responsible for all of the logistics activity of the RNZAF. As a result of this appointment, he was then appointed in 1942 as Air Officer commanding RNZAF headquarters in London until 1943. In 1944, he was returned to New Zealand and appointed Vice Chief of Air Staff, and then in 1946 to Chief of Air Staff until January 1951. During this period, his administration coped with the RNZAF at its greatest establishment of manpower that were being, or had been, employed in most war theaters from Europe to the Western Pacific, and then through a period of demobilization when airmen were employed on many make-work tasks and flying was minimized to save money. During this period, too, there were so-called strikes when airmen and other servicemen and women throughout New Zealand used refusing to cooperate with orders, tactics to get demobilized more quickly. Most of the aircraft employed by the Air Force were subject to Lend-Lease rules and were required to be returned to U.S. control or destroyed. Most were destroyed, some later than the extent of his administration. He also had to endure the effect of a home government that decided to support Britain financially by ordering a small fleet of pre-wartime and wartime designed aircraft. For example, 100 Mosquitoes, for which no useful service was contemplated. Only 12 ever flew in New Zealand, and they were soon mothballed. However, he was also responsible for the initiation of a series of orders for aircraft such as the Vampire, Devon, Type 170 freighter and Hastings CMK-3 that were to see service well into the 1960s, and some beyond that. Honors and awards. Nevill was appointed a commander of the Order of the British Empire in the 1941 New Year Honors. In the 1946 King's Birthday Honors, he was appointed a Companion of the Order of the Bath CB. In the 1950 New Year Honors, he was promoted to Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. In 1953, he was awarded the Queen Elizabeth Roman II Coronation Medal. In 1969, Nevill was appointed an honorary doctor of the University of Waikato. Let your mind wander now to Sacred Heart College of Lucena City. Sacred Heart College of Lucena City, Inc. is an educational institution in Lucena, Quezon, Philippines. The first Catholic learning institution in Quezon Province. It was founded on April 27, 1884. It had its roots in the vision of a simple and saintly woman named Hermana Fausta, whose exemplary life was molded on the Vincentian spirituality. The school grew, and its status was changed from academy to college in 1941. It was formally turned over to the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul on 1st of August 1937. The school's basic education division offers primary and secondary education from kindergarten to grade 12, K-12. The higher education division offers courses leading to associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, and master's degrees. History. Sacred Heart College, the oldest Catholic institution for men and women in Quezon Province, was founded on April 27, 1884. The school had its roots in the vision of a simple and saintly woman named Fausta Labrador y Zarsadias, who, at the age of 26, opened a charity school to form the youth according to the ideals of the Catholic faith. The mission of Hermana Yuda, as she was fondly called, obtained its first shapes through Don Gregorio Merchant, a wealthy citizen of Lucena, who offered his house to serve as the first school building on April 27, 1884. Having been trained and molded by the Daughters of Charity at the Collegio de Santa Rosa, Hermana Yuda later decided to leave her school in the hands of the Daughters of Charity in the twilight of her life. The school was handed over to the sisters on August 14, 1937. In 1939, the school was operating the complete primary, intermediate, and high school courses. Realizing the need for the good teachers founded on solid Christian ideals, the sisters deemed it necessary to open a teacher training course. So in 1941, the school offered the junior normal courses, ETC. With the opening of the new course, the status of the school was changed from academy to college. The outbreak of the war in December 1941 forced the temporary closure of the school. The school reopened in July 1942 during the Japanese occupation. On September 14, 1942, at the age of 84, the saintly foundress of Sacred Heart College died. But her spirit continues to live to this day in the hearts of the people she had impressed with her mission. It seemed that not even the conflagration that swept the first school building on June 11, 1944, could kill the spirit of utter selflessness. From the house of Don Gregorio Merchant to the residence of Don Agaton Rodriguez to the house of Addie Fabian Miller to the Club X building to the present school site, the spirit of the foundress continues to permeate the corridors, the hall, the grounds, and the chapel. With the construction of the present school building, the former site of the school razed down by the big fire that hit Lucena in 1965 was transformed into a landmark. The Hermana Fawcett Development Center has become the center of the school's community outreach projects for the depressed sectors of the community. In 1975, Sr. Paz Marfori, D.C., the then dean of the college, conducted a feasibility study and applied for the opening of a college of nursing. The approval was granted, and the department was opened in June 1976. In 1982, the Basic Education Department took that bold step towards academic excellence by undergoing and passing the rigid requirements for accreditation of the Philippine Accrediting Association of Schools, Colleges, and Universities, PASCU. The BED have the benefit of an accredited status for more than 30 years. In 1993, the Higher Education Department likewise made its own bid for PASCU accreditation, passing the preliminary survey and the formal survey in February 1998. Since then, a succession of PASCU visits ensued. In the area of physical development, the school in the last 2 decades has constructed and or developed other landmarks such as the School Gymnasium 1984, the Stowe Nino Building, and the St. Vincent Hall in 1993, the John Paul Roman II Youth Formation House, along with the Twin Hearts Ecology Park in 1994, a 3-story building for the Basic Education Department in 1997, and the SHC Cultural Center and Gymnasium in 1999. To meet the needs and challenges of the times, the school has opened new programs and majors in the higher education department such as AB Communication, BS Psychology, and BS Computer Science. On top of these significant developments is the opening of graduate programs, Master of Arts in Education in 1996, and Master of Science in Nursing in 2000. The opening of the BS Pharmacy and BS Management Accounting programs were its latest addition to the program offerings of the Higher Education Department. The 2019 fire incident on January 1, 2019, the main building which houses a computer laboratory, the school chapel, offices, a library, and the residential area for the sisters was razed by fire. The nearby building, which is occupied by the Basic Education Department, also sustained a considerable damage. The fire started around 8:30 a.m. and quickly spread to adjacent buildings, driven by strong winds, According to local authorities, firefighters from Lucena City and nearby towns responded to the blaze, but the fire continued burning for several hours before being brought under control. No casualties were reported, though the property damage was extensive. On July 29, 2022, new and renovated buildings were blessed and turned over to the school upon its completion. SR Maria Ana Rosario Evident, D.C., the Visitatrix and S.R. Imai Teresa Fatima L. Muta, D.C., former general counselor, led the ribbon cutting for the new buildings. These include St. Louise de Marillac, SLM, St. Catherine Labouré, SCL, St. Vincent de Paul, SVP, and the Powerhouse. Immediately after the ribbon-cutting ceremonies were the formal turnover rites at the Hermana Foster Lounge in the SLM building. The historic event was witnessed by more than 500 guests, including stakeholders, donors, dignitaries, and public officials. Publication The Pulse is the formal publication name of the elementary level, the Heartbeat for the high school level of the Basic Education Department, and the Heart for the Higher Education Department. Academics Sacred Heart College of Lucena City offers a comprehensive educational program that includes integrated basic education and various degree and graduate programs. The integrated basic education curriculum comprises kindergarten, primary education grades 1 to 6, junior high school grades 7 to 10, and senior high school grades 11 to 12, with an academic track that includes specializations in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, STEM, accountancy, business and management (ABM), and humanities and social sciences (HUMS). At the undergraduate level, the college offers a diverse range of degree programs, including Bachelor of Arts in Communication (ABCOM), Bachelor of Science in Management Accounting (BSMA), Bachelor of Science in Accountancy (BSA), Bachelor of Science in Psychology (BSP), Bachelor of Science in Computer Science (BSCS), Bachelor of Science in Nursing (BSN), Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy (BSPH), Bachelor of Science in Social Work (BSSW), and Bachelor of Science in Business Administration (BSBA), with majors available in Financial Management (FM), Marketing Management (MM), Business Economics (B), and Human Resource Development Management (HRDM). Additionally, the college offers Bachelor of Elementary Education (BED) and Bachelor of Secondary Education (BSED) programs, with majors in English, Science, Mathematics, Filipino, and Social Studies. For graduate studies, Sacred Heart College provides a Master of Science in Nursing (MSN) and a Master of Arts in Education (MED), with majors in Educational Management, English, Filipino, Mathematics, Religious Education, Biological Science, Physical Science, and Social Science. Alumni Heidi Mendoza, Bachelor of Science in Accountancy, Commissioner at the Commission on Audit and Undersecretary General at United Nations Office of Internal Oversight Services, Edna Estefania A. Co. Bachelor of Arts in Literature, magna cum laude, Assistant Professor at NCPAG at University of the Philippines Diliman. External links: Sacred Heart College, Lucena City Schools and University. Our next topic tonight is HeyDay Restaurant. HeyDay, also known as HeyDay, is a donut shop in Portland, Oregon, United States. Lisa Nguyen started the business as a pop-up restaurant in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, before moving to the food cart pod Collective Oregon Eateries in southeast Portland's Lentz neighborhood in 2023. Specializing in matcha donuts, HeyDay has garnered a positive reception. Description: the donut shop HeyDay operates in the food cart pod Collective Oregon Eateries core in southeast Portland's Lentz neighborhood. HeyDay specializes in matcha donuts made with wheat and rice flour. Most are fried, though the Yube variety is baked. The non-yakaya donuts have pandan. Other varieties have included baked apple, black sesame, coffee sua, Vietnamese coffee, dark chocolate peanut butter, ginger snap, guava, lychee, raspberry cheesecake, white chocolate matcha, and vanilla bean sprinkle. Donuts are topped with various crumbles, frostings, or glazes using Southeast Asian ingredients such as coconut sweet corn, passion fruit, and yuzu. HeyDay also makes bear-shaped cake donuts and other baked goods such as biscuits and danishes. History: Lisa Nguyen started HeyDay as a pop-up in May 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, initially selling at local cafes and tea shops including Portland Cafe. In 2021, Nguyen announced plans to move into core. In 2022, HeyDay was a vendor at the Tiger Music Festival. The business began operating at core in May 2023. In 2024, HeyDay launched Sunday Bake Shop, a rotating menu of cakes, cookies, cream puffs, macarons, pies, and other Vietnamese baked goods and desserts. In April 2025, the Oregonian reported that HeyDay had recently closed. HeyDay was among local Filipino establishments that participated in a fundraiser for victims of the Vancouver car attack. Collaborations: in 2021, HeyDay collaborated with restaurants Hat Yai and XLB for the food festival Feast Portland. HeyDay also participated in the Portland edition of Baker's Box, a project highlighting Asian American and Pacific Islander (API) bakers in various U.S. cities. The Portland event was hosted by Burlesque and featured 18 businesses. HeyDay partnered with ice cream company Salt and Straw to sell pandan cream sodas with vanilla ice cream to raise funds for victims of the 2023 Hawaii wildfires. HeyDay also donated some profits made from 4 waffle varieties: cornmeal cheese bacon rice flour with gochujang honey, rice flour with brie and fig jam, yube, or matcha with maple syrup and condensed milk. Reception: in 2021, Denise Castagnan of the magazine PDX Parent wrote, "HeyDay donuts are made for Instagram." The business uses the social media outlet to spread the word, and the photogenic, uniquely shaped, and charmingly decorated rings cry out to be posted on your feed. Zoe Baylargen included HeyDay in Bon Appetit's 2023 overview of Portland's 8 best donut shops. Rebecca Rowland and Nick Townsend included the business in Eater Portland's 2024 list of the city's most delicious donuts. When you are ready, we move on to Zamak. Zamak, or Zamak, formerly trademarked as Mazak, is a family of alloys with a base metal of zinc and alloying elements of aluminum, magnesium, and copper. Zamak alloys are part of the zinc-aluminum alloy family. They are distinguished from the other Za alloys because of their constant 4% aluminum composition. The name Zamak is an acronym of the German names for the metals of which the alloys are composed: zinc, aluminium, magnesium, and copper. The New Jersey Zinc Company developed Zamak alloys in 1929. The most common Zamak alloy is Zamak 3. Besides that, Zamak 2, Zamak 5, and Zamak 7 are also commercially used. These alloys are most commonly die-cast. Zamak alloys, particularly H3 and H5, are frequently used in the spin casting industry. A large problem with early zinc die-casting materials was zinc pest, owing to impurities in the alloys. Zamak avoided this by the use of 99% pure zinc metal, produced by New Jersey Zinc's use of a refluxer as part of the refining process. Zamak can be electroplated, wet painted, and chromate conversion coated well. Mazak in the early 1930s, Morris Ashby in Britain had licensed the New Jersey Zamak alloy. The 99% purity refluxor zinc was not available in Britain, and so they acquired the right to manufacture the alloy using a locally available electrolytically refined zinc of 95% purity. This was given the name Mazak, partly to distinguish it from Zamak and partly from the initials of Morris Ashby. In 1933, National Smelting licensed the refluxor patent with the intent of using it to produce 99% zinc in their plant at Avonmouth. Standards zinc alloy chemical composition standards are defined per country by the standard listed below. Zamak goes by many different names based on standard and / or country. The short European designation code breaks down as follows, using ZL0430 as the example. Z is the material, Z equals zinc. P is the use, P equals pressure die casting, casting. L equals ingot. 04 is the percent aluminum, 04 equals 4% aluminum. 3 is the percent copper, 3 equals 3% copper. Zamak 2 has the same composition as Zamak 3 with the addition of 3% copper in order to increase strength by 20%, which also increases the price. Zamak 2 has the greatest strength out of all the Zamak alloys. Over time, it retains its strength and hardness better than the other alloys. However, it becomes more brittle, shrinks, and is less elastic. Zamak 2 is also known as Kirksite when gravity cast for use as a die. It was originally designed for low-volume sheet metal dies. It later gained popularity for making short-run, injection molding dies. It is also less commonly used for non-sparking tools and mandrels for metal spinning. The KS alloy was developed for spin casting decorative parts. It has the same composition as Zamak 2, except with more magnesium in order to produce finer grains and reduce the orange peel effect. Zamak 3 is the de facto standard for the Zamak series of zinc alloys. All other zinc alloys are compared to this. Zamak 3 has the base composition for the Zamak alloys, 96% zinc, 4% aluminum. It has excellent castability, and long-term dimensional stability. More than 70% of all North American zinc die castings are made from Zamak 3. Zamak 4 was developed for the Asian markets to reduce the effects of die soldering while maintaining the ductility of Zamak 3. This was achieved by using half the amount of copper from the Zamak 5 composition. Zamak 5 has the same composition as Zamak 3, with the addition of 1% copper in order to increase strength by approximately 10%, hardness and corrosive resistance, but reduces ductility. It also has less dimensional accuracy. Zamak 5 is more commonly used in Europe. Zamak 7 has less magnesium than Zamak 3 to increase fluidity and ductility, which is especially useful when casting thin wall components. In order to reduce intergranular corrosion, a small amount of nickel is added, and impurities are more strictly controlled. Common uses for Zamak alloys include appliances, bathroom fixtures, die-cast toys, and automotive industry. Zamak alloys are also used in the manufacture of some firearms, such as those from high-point firearms. In World War II, Zamak alloy butt plates were one of 3 variations common on Canadian and American-made 303 Lee Enfield rifles, particularly during mid-war production. And now a new story begins. 1962 to 1963 New York City newspaper strike. The 1962 to 1963 New York City newspaper strike was a strike action within the newspaper industry of New York City, which ran from December 8, 1962, until March 31, 1963, lasting for a total of 114 days. Besides protesting low wages, the unions were resisting automation of the printing presses. The strike played a pivotal role in changing the attitude of the public to daily newspapers, leading to the demise of some papers, and paved the way for new print publications and the start of all-news radio in the New York metropolitan area. Preliminary actions. A preliminary action took place when the newspaper guild went on strike against the Daily News just after midnight on November 1, 1962. Guild Vice President Thomas J. Murphy indicated that the Daily News had been singled out as the union's first target, because there we have had more aggravation, more agitation, more issues, more disputes, and more anti-unionism from management. The Daily News was able to keep printing on November 2, 1962, by using the presses of the New York Journal-American. Workers at the Daily News settled their issues, accepting raises of $8 per week in talks mediated by United States Secretary of Labor W. Willard Wirtz, with employees receiving an added $4.25 per week in the first year, with an additional $3.75 weekly in the subsequent year, allowing the paper to start with a print run of 1.5 million copies, short of its nation-leading normal circulation of 2,075,000 copies. On December 4, 1962, negotiators representing the 9 major newspapers offered a deal that combined an $8 increase in wages and benefits spread over 2 years, combined with changes in work procedures that would cut costs for the papers. Union negotiators rejected the offer from the newspapers the following day, setting their requirement of a $16 weekly raise over 2 years, and set a deadline of midnight on December 8th if an agreement could not be reached before then. Representatives of the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Service, including Frank H. Brown and Stephen Schlossberg, attempted to help both sides reach agreement on December 6th, with the public interest cited as justifying federal intervention. The strike began at 2 a.m. On December 8th, when workers from the New York local of the International Typographical Union, led by their president Bert Powers, walked out from the Daily News, New York Journal American, the New York Times, and New York World Telegram and Sun. In addition, the New York Daily Mirror, New York Herald Tribune, New York Post, the Long Island Star-Journal, and the Long Island Daily Press all suspended operations on a voluntary basis. The newspapers kept their offer of $8 increase per week spread over 2 years, while the unions were looking for $38.82 increase in the 2-year period. Alternative media and strike impact. A number of publications were created or benefited from the strike. The New York Review of Books was created during the strike, issuing its first copies on February 21, 1963, with circulation reaching 75,000 during the strike, before retreating to between 50,000 and 60,000 following the strike. The Brooklyn Eagle saw circulation grow from 50,000 to 390,000, before shrinking to 154,000, before it was hit with a separate deliverers strike on June 27, 1963. Tiger Burning Bright, a dramatic stage play written by playwright Peter Fableman, premiered on Broadway at the Booth Theater in 1962. Critically acclaimed, the play closed after only 33 performances, with the New York Times saying that the play was fatally wounded by the newspaper strike in New York. Fortunato Pope, publisher of the Italian-language daily newspaper Il Progresso Italo-Americano, launched an English-language tabloid called the New York Daily Report. WABC-FM adopted a prototypical all-news radio format during the 114-day strike, preceding WINS as the first station with an all-news format in New York City. Leonard Andrews, employed by a credit card company, the Uniserve Corporation, approached the company's customers about advertising in a publication he created called the New York Standard, the largest of several alternative papers published during the strike, reaching a peak circulation of more than 400,000 and appearing for 67 issues. Other substitute newspapers were the New York Daily Report and the New York Metropolitan Daily. Ending the strike, 4 papers had originally been the target of the strike, but 5 other papers suspended printing on a voluntary basis. The New York Post was able to resume printing on March 4, 1963, by withdrawing from the Publishers Association. They would be bound by whatever settlement the other papers made, and would have no further voice in negotiating it. The New York Herald Tribune published a statement that they had chosen not to resume publishing on the same terms because of the risk that the eventual settlement would put them out of business. New York Mayor Robert F. Wagner, Jr., and labor negotiator Theodore W. Keel were eventually able to forge an agreement to end the strike after several attempts. The first deal offered for ratification by the printers' union was rejected on March 17th. In another vote on March 24th, they agreed to settle, but by this time the photo engravers' union had decided to join the strike, and they did not settle until March 31st. As publication resumed, the first headline in the Daily News was, "We have news for you." The printers would receive wage and benefit increases of $12.63 per week. Keel noted that the contracts for all 10 newspaper unions would expire on the same date in 1965, emphasizing the importance of addressing the festering labor issues. Aftermath and analysis performed by the New York Times showed that the 9 affected newspapers lost a total of more than $100 million, equivalent to $10.52 million in 2025, in advertising and circulation revenues, and that the industry's more than 19,000 employees lost $50 million in wages and benefits. After the strike was ended, both the Times and Herald Tribune doubled their price to 10 cents, one of the factors that had cut readership. As of September 30th, 1963, circulation of 6 daily New York papers was down 9% on weekdays and 3% on Sundays based on reports from the Audit Bureau of Circulations. The John F. Kennedy assassination in November 1963 helped bring readers back to newspapers. The New York Daily Mirror, owned by the Hearst Corporation, shut down on October 15, 1963, and sold its name and goodwill to the Daily News. The Mirror's management blamed the closure on the effects of the strike aggravating existing problems at the paper. Q Magazine, now part of New York Magazine, saw weekly circulation rise by 35,000 a year after the strike started, and TV Guide had seen a jump of 350,000. Time saw New York City circulation rise by 10%. Our next topic tonight is 1966 to 67 Brentford F.C. season. During the 1966 to 67 English football season, Brentford competed in the Football League 4th Division. In a season overshadowed by the events of 19th of January 1967, a promotion charge was derailed by 5 defeats in the final 6 matches of the campaign. Season summary: in a bid to buy Brentford out of the bottom 2 divisions of the Football League, the large transfer funds made available by Chairman Jack Dunnett to previous managers Malky MacDonald and Tommy Kavanagh had left the club with mounting debts. Kavanagh had spent £30,000 on 7 players since being appointed to the manager's job in January 1965, with 5 key attacking players, Bloomfield, Lazarus, Ward, Bonson and Fielding, being sold on for a total less than half that sum during the course of the 1965 to 66 Third Division season, towards the end of which he was sacked. New manager Billy Gray had failed to halt Brentford's relegation slide, which meant that the club would be members of the 4th Division for the 1966 to 67 season. An average home attendance of 11,000 would be needed to break even, and attendances had been falling year on year since the 1963-64 season. A net loss on the previous season of £19,823 on the previous season, equivalent to £322,400 in 2025, meant that manager Gray had no money to buy established players, and so he brought in a number of youngsters, including his nephew John Richardson. Brentford had a good start to the season, winning the first 2 matches to sit top of the 4th division. Despite the strike force being bolstered by the experienced Brian Bedford, a winless run of 5 defeats in 8 matches dropped the club into the relegation places in mid-October 1966. Manager Billy Gray then made wholesale changes to the starting Roman 11, introducing a number of youngsters. The new-look team went on to win 5 consecutive matches. The establishment of the new lineup led to a clear-out of players, with out-of-favor Mickey Block, Billy Cobb, John Regan, Mel Scott and Ron Crisp all exiting Griffin Park before the end of the season. The Bees failed to keep up their good form through November and December, and dropped back into mid-table. The club weathered the storm caused by the tumultuous events of 19th of January 1967, which resulted in the departure of chairman Jack Dunnett and manager Billy Gray. Trainer Jimmy Searle took over as acting manager and built on the improved January form under Gray, and led the team on a 16-match unbeaten league run, which equaled the club record at the time. The run left Brentford within 3 points of the promotion places, but 5 consecutive defeats in the final 6 matches of the season ended any chance of promotion. The Brentford reserve team had a successful season, beating local rivals Fulham in a replay to win the 1966-67 London Challenge Cup. Results: Brentford's goal tally listed first. Playing squad players' ages are as of the opening day of the 1966-67 season. Appearances and goals, substitute appearances in brackets. Players listed in italics left the club mid-season. Source: 100 Years of Brentford. Players listed in italics left the club mid-season. Source: 100 Years of Brentford. Next, we turn softly to burlesque play. Burlesque is a play in 3 acts co-written by George Manker Waters and Arthur Hopkins. While described as a play with music, and not strictly speaking a musical, the show did include songs with music by Albert von Tilzer and Peter de Rose, and lyrics by Joe Trent and Edward Grant. A backstage drama set in the 1920s, the play tells the story of a husband and wife performing duo, Ralph Skid Johnson and Bonnie King, who are small-time burlesque theater performers in the United States. Their marriage is tested when Skid lands a job as leading comic in a hit Broadway show, and the couple finds that success and fame come with a cost. Burlesque was a hit play of the 1927 to 1928 Broadway season, and had a successful Broadway revival in 1946. It was adapted multiple times into films. Actor Hal Skelly starred as Skid in both the original Broadway production and in the film's first screen adaptation in 1929. The work is remembered for being an important early-stage success in the career of actress Barbara Stanwyck, who achieved acclaim in the role of Bonnie in the New York production at the age of 20. Plot set in the 1920s. The first act of the play takes place in a dressing room at a burlesque theater somewhere in the Midwestern United States. The plot follows burlesque show comic Skid Johnson and his wife, the dancer Bonnie King, as they seek to move their way up in the entertainment world. Skid is talented and ambitious, but self-destructive with a penchant for drinking to excess and a wandering eye for women. Bonnie loves him dearly, but can also be acerbic in her wit towards him while possessing charisma and charm. Skid lands a job as a leading comic in a big Broadway musical show, taking that gig after being persuaded to pursue it by the chorus girl, Sylvia Marco, with whom he has been flirting. To get Skid's attention, Bonnie flirts with a rich rancher Harvey Howell, who has been buying tickets to their show every night. The second act takes place at a hotel suite in New York City. Success and fame has led Skid to wander from his marriage, and he has an affair with Sylvia. Bonnie decides to seek a divorce from him and marry the rancher. When Skid learns Bonnie is suing him for divorce and marrying someone else, he gets drunk and loses his job. The final act takes place at the Star Theater in Paterson, New Jersey, where Bonnie is working once again in the same burlesque show after separating from Skid. Hat in hand, Skid returns to Bonnie, who forgives him, and they resume their marriage and performing together in the burlesque show. History theater scholar Felicia Hardison Landry described burlesque as a backstage comedy drama that was especially vibrant in its depiction of seedy glamour and jazzy lingo. The play opened at Broadway's Plymouth Theater on September 1, 1927, where it ran for 372 performances, closing on July 14, 1928. The original production starred Hal Skelly as Skid and Barbara Stanwyck as Bonnie. It was an important first success in the career of Stanwyck, who was 20 years old at the time. Indiana University theater professor Ronald Wainscott stated that the role raised her profile from chorus girl to stardom, which not long after took her to Hollywood. Despite the positive impact burlesque had on Stanwyck's career, the play was not considered a major vehicle for star talent and was viewed as more of an ensemble-oriented play. While Bonnie and Skid's story was at the center of the drama, the work featured 8 full-scale burlesque acts. Many of these featured the talents of secondary characters in the burlesque troupe, although the final act was a soft shoe dance between Skid and Bonnie in which the characters reconcile. Other cast members in the show included Ruth Holden as Sylvia Marco, Charles D. Brown as Lefty, the manager of the burlesque troupe, Oscar Levant as the pianist and songwriter Jerry Evans, Paul Porter as Jimmy the stage manager, Jack B. Shea as the dancer Fireman Scotty, and Ralph Theodore as the cattleman Harvey Howell. Burns Mantle described the original production as a rough drama in the sense that its cross-sections life among the lowly and uncultured performers of the burlesque theaters, revealing them on good authority as they live and as they are. Burlesque was later successfully revived on Broadway at the Belasco Theater, where it played from December 1946 through January 1948. The cast was led by Burt Lahr and Gene Parker. Hopkins was the director for both the original 1927 production and the 1946 revival. Adaptations: the popularity of the stage version of Burlesque in both its original production and its later revival made it an attractive candidate for film adaptations. It was first adapted by Paramount Pictures into the 1929 film The Dance of Life, with Hal Skelly reprising his role as Skid from the stage production. This was later followed by a second Paramount picture, Swing High, Swing Low, which starred Carole Lombard and Fred MacMurray. A third and final film adaptation, When My Baby Smiles at Me, was made starring Betty Grable and Dan Daly. It was made by 20th Century Fox, who acquired the rights to Burlesque after the success of the Broadway revival in the mid-1940s. Burlesque was also adapted into a radio play for the Lux Radio Theater. The 1936 broadcast of the play on this program starred Al Jolson and his wife Ruby Keeler. Next, we turn softly to Dying Light, the following. Dying Light. The following is an expansion pack for the first-person survival horror video game Dying Light by Techland and was originally published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. The story of the following follows Kyle Crane, who must venture into the countryside of Harran to investigate a mysterious cult, whose leader may hold the key to immunity to a zombie virus that plagues the city. The game introduces a large, sprawling rural environment that is 2 times larger than the map of the base game. While the gameplay continues to focus on Parker, it has a larger emphasis on using firearms to defeat enemies, and the game introduces a dune buggy for both traversal and combat. Players can access this expansion after completing the prologue of the base game. The release of the original game became a large success for Techland, prompting it to pause development of its other project, Hellraid, to focus on creating more content for the Dying Light franchise. Certain gameplay mechanics of the following were originally planned for the base game, but were abandoned as the team struggled to finish development of the core game. The team listened to community feedback and decided to add numerous gameplay adjustments, introducing more weapons and refining Parker mechanics. To accommodate vehicular traversal and combat, the team had to completely revamp the artificial intelligence and behaviors of enemies in the game. Announced in July 2015, the game was released for Linux, Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One in February 2016. It was also released alongside Enhanced Edition, which bundles the base game, the following, and some of the downloadable content packs released for the original game together. The release of the Enhanced Edition also brings new updates to the base game, introducing a new difficulty mode, legendary levels, and bounty missions. The following received generally positive reviews upon release. Critics praised the map design, progression systems, crafting mechanics, and the introduction of vehicles, while criticizing its characters and quest design. Kyle Crane's story continues in Dying Light. The Beast, released on 18th of September 2025. Players can begin the following at any time after completing the prologue of the base game, though Techland recommended that players have at least a level 18 character before starting the expansion. Players can switch back to playing the main game anytime while playing the expansion, and character progression players earned in the following will be carried to the base game. As with the base game, the following is played from a first-person perspective. Set in a map that is twice as large as the two previous maps of Dying Light, the following's gameplay is similar to that of the main game, where the infected are slow and fragile during daytime and become aggressive and fast at nighttime. Players can use Parker movements to move between places and kill enemies. One of the new features introduced is a drivable dune buggy, which players can use to travel across the game's world quickly and mow down enemies. It has its own separate skill tree and weapons, including spikes, flamethrowers, UV lights, and electrical cages, and other upgrades can be added to the buggy to increase its combat abilities. The buggy's performance and efficiency are affected by factors including the power of its suspension, engine, and brakes. Players must collect fuel and salvage for engine parts in order to keep the buggy in good condition. They can also choose from 40 different paint jobs and accessory items to customize their vehicle. As the game is set in a rural environment, the expansion has a larger focus on gunplay. The game features several new weapons, such as a crossbow and a variety of new firearms, such as submachine guns and revolvers. As players explore the world, they will meet non-playable characters and complete side quests for them. As players complete side quests, their trust ranking with the locals will increase, which will unlock opportunities for more gameplay and narrative content. The expansion also supports a 4-player cooperative multiplayer mode. Each player has access to their own vehicle, but they can also choose to ride at the back of another player's buggy. Players can complete time trials for driving the buggy at the fastest speed possible, or race against each other in co-op mode. The asymmetrical multiplayer mode from the first game, Be the Zombie, also returns in the following. The following was released alongside the Enhanced Edition, which brings numerous updates to the original game. A new bounty mode which split missions into 3 different categories, Basic, Daily, and Community, was introduced. The missions and objectives included in this mode change every day, and players gain experience points by completing them. The game also features a new difficulty mode named Nightmare Mode, which extends the duration of nighttime and increases the strength and health of enemies. Actions made in this mode drain stamina from players. The following and the Enhanced Edition also introduce legendary levels, which are unlocked once a skill tree is fully upgraded. Players will start gaining experience points contributing to the 250 legendary levels, enabling players to unlock additional combat bonuses and boosts, as well as new outfits and weapons. Protagonist Kyle Crane learns from a survivor near death about a supposed cure to the zombie virus. With the survivors running short on antizin, a drug that slows the process of infection and suppresses its symptoms, and efforts to produce a cure still unsuccessful, Crane decides to go investigate this supposed immunity. He travels to the countryside, where he discovers that many of the survivors out there have converted to a religious cult called the Children of the Sun, who worship the Mother, which is apparently the source of their immunity to the virus. In order to earn the cult's trust and learn more about the immunity, Crane decides to assist the survivors. Eventually, one of the Faceless, the high-ranking members of the cult, approaches Crane and privately admits that their immunity is gained through a special elixir they had discovered. But like antizin, it only suppresses the infection and does not fully cure it. The Faceless also reveal that they are working on a permanent cure and promise that, in exchange for his help, they will give Crane the cure to take back to Harran. Crane is then tasked with assisting a man named Attila, who is working on an important project for the mother. Attila tells Crane that the children of the sun believe in a prophecy where a chosen one would rise up to become the prophet of the god of the sun and purify the infection. He also reveals that the mother was Jasmine, the wife of a local military colonel who was involved in the experiments that caused the outbreak, but was bitten during the outbreak. Before succumbing to the infection himself, the colonel gave Attila a secret code that Attila passes on to Crane. Attila then suicides in an attempt to invoke the prophecy, but it fails to occur. Crane then discovers that the remnants of Rise's gang have also traveled to the countryside to search for the supposed cure as well. Rise's thugs stage an attack on the mother's base in a nearby dam, but when Crane arrives, he finds both Rise's bandits and the Faceless all dead. Entering the dam, Crane discovers that the mother has been turned into a sentient volatile. She reveals that the dam was a secret military facility that held a special chemical substance. However, rather than being a cure for the virus, the elixir instead slowly turns whoever uses it into a sentient volatile, like it did to the mother. During the day, she is able to retain her mental faculties and has been given telepathic abilities in order to communicate. But at night, she becomes an uncontrollable feral monster. The mother tells Crane that the only way to stop the infection is to summon the god of the sun to purify the land, sacrificing everybody in Harran in the process. At this point, Crane can choose to either listen to the mother or defy her. If Crane chooses to defy the mother attacks, forces him to drink the elixir, and attempts to kill him, but Crane eventually prevails and kills her. Taking what is left of the elixir, Crane leaves the dam, suffering continuous blackouts, and finds himself in a populated area seemingly outside the quarantine, but discovers that his exposure to the elixir has already turned him into a sentient volatile. As night falls, the infected Crane lets out a feral scream as a nearby mother and her children watch in terror. This ending is canon as it leads into the events of Dying Light, the Beast. If Crane chooses to listen to the mother, she leads him to a nuclear warhead that was originally meant to be a fail-safe to contain the outbreak. Crane inputs the code Attila had given him, which activates the warhead, presumably destroying all of Harran and killing all of the survivors and infected, taking the virus with them. Development and release: the following was developed by Techland and published by Warner Bros. Interactive entertainment. Gameplay elements from the following were originally part of the core Dying Light game, but were later abandoned as the core game was becoming too large for the team to handle. According to lead designer Maciej Bienkowski, the development of the game continued after the release of the first game, and numerous gameplay, audio, and graphical improvements were made. According to Bienkowski, the team decided to implement a dune buggy into the following as they felt that it was a fantasy of the zombie genre, and they missed the opportunity when developing the base game. The process of implementing them was described as difficult, as they had to ensure that the new system works functionally with other gameplay mechanics, most notably the Parker system. To achieve this, Techland completely revamped the artificial intelligence and behaviors of enemies to accommodate the fast-moving nature of gameplay. The development team also looked at players' feedback and requests regarding the first Dying Light and decided to add the most demanded features, including a new story and new firearms, to the game. The new campaign lasts for at least 10 hours and centers around the theme mystery. The team was inspired by the X-Files and Twin Peaks and worked to ensure the story had a different mood when compared with the main game. In May 2015, it was announced that the development of another Techland video game, HeyDay, had been put on hold so as to allow the studio to allocate resources and time to concentrate on the development of the Dying Light franchise. The following was announced by Techland in July 2015. To reflect the increased scope and scale of the expansion, Techland raised the game's price on 25th of November 2015. It was included in Dying Light, the following Enhanced Edition, which bundles the following with the base game and its downloadable content, except for 3 DLCs, Heron Ranger Bundle, Gun Psycho Bundle, and Volatile Hunter Bundle. Players of the original game can upgrade to the Enhanced Edition for free. The following is also free for players who have purchased the base game's Season Pass. The Enhanced Edition was released on 9th of February 2016 for Linux, Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. In March 2016, Techland announced that they would be collaborating with Psyonix for crossover content. Players who owned Dying Light can unlock unique cosmetic items based on Rocket League, while players of Rocket League can customize their vehicles with items based on the following. It was released for Nintendo Switch on October 19, 2021 as part of Dying Light, Platinum Edition, and PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and Series S on June 9, 2022 as part of Dying Light, Definitive Edition. Dying Light. The following received generally favorable reviews from critics, according to review aggregator Metacritic. Tom Stone from Official Xbox Magazine found the controls and handling of the Dune buggy to be responsive, describing the following as the real Mad Max game I've been waiting for. He praised the vehicular combat gameplay for encouraging reckless driving. He added that the game managed to maintain its tension despite the introduction of Dune buggies, creating an undoubtedly exhilarating gameplay experience, especially during nighttime when the infected become more aggressive. Brandon Grieber from IGN wrote that collecting engine parts and fuel for the Dune buggy further expanded the main game's core premise of scavenging resources for survival, and liked how the expansion's more open, sparse map design highlighted the versatility of the Dune buggy. Scott Butterworth from GameSpot also felt that maintaining the buggy was a natural evolution of the main game's crafting system, and he enjoyed the game's progression system, which gradually made the vehicle stronger and more durable. Butterworth also liked that the new setting encourages players to experiment with new tactics and puts an emphasis on gun combat, an aspect that he considered to be underutilized in the main game. Christopher Livingston, writing for PC Gamer, praised the game's faster cadence of rewarding players with new upgrades, making the early gameplay experience more enjoyable. Nathan Didam from Eurogamer remarked that the game's introduction of legendary levels provided new challenges for endgame players, while Alex Stinton from Push Square remarked that players who disliked the original game would be unlikely to change their opinion after playing the following, as both games share the same fundamentals of both gameplay and structure. Mike Williams from US Gamer was impressed by Techland's ambition and noted that it was almost a different game hidden in DLC, despite being based on similar concepts. Both Williams and Livingston remarked that the following was a sizable expansion. The story received a more mixed reception from critics. Adam Smith from Rock Paper Shotgun praised the rural environment for significantly contrasting with the post-apocalyptic urban setting of the original game. He also found the characters and the overall premise to be more interesting than the base game. While Stone felt that the story was engaging, he found the characters to be unlikable and criticized the game's implementation of motion capture and lip-syncing technology. Stone and Grieber praised the varied quest design for keeping the experience engaging throughout. Butterworth remarked the game's objective design relied heavily on fetch quests, though missions did not become monotonous as the game introduced more gameplay options for players. While Grieber remarked the story's initial pacing was slow, he commended the ending for being superior to the original game's narrative conclusion. Butterworth felt that Kyle Crane as a protagonist was lacking in personality, but found the story to be a refreshing and original experience, and described it as an engaging conspiracy thriller complete with tension, intrigue, and a few genuinely surprising twists. Livingston had a negative opinion of the story and found it as dull as the main game. A standalone game titled Dying Light, The Beast, which follows Kyle Crane 13 years after the events of the following, was released on September 18, 2025. Next, we turn softly to Valentine Vallis. Valentine Thomas Vallis was a Queensland poet, lecturer and opera critic. Early life Vallis was born in Gladstone, Queensland on 1st of August 1916. His father, Michael, was a fisherman and wharf worker. Vallis wrote of his father, Mother Daisy, and siblings in a number of his poems. After attending Gladstone State School and studying secretarial work at Rockhampton High School, Vallis became a clerk in the Gladstone Town Council. Throughout his childhood, he had been an avid reader with a love for poetry. His extended family introduced him to opera. He enlisted in the Australian Army in 1940 and worked as a signaller, before being attached to the Army Education Service in New Guinea, using his secretarial skills. He was posted to Singapore after Japan surrendered, where he helped prisoners of Changi Prison return to Australia. His unit's major, Tom Inglise Moore, who was working with the Australian Army Education Service during World War II, encouraged him to write and read American poetry. Vallis submitted poems through the 1940s to the Bulletin, with his first poem being accepted by editor Douglas Stewart in 1944. Vallis' poems would primarily celebrate the sea, inspired by his youth in Gladstone. Following his war service, Vallis enrolled in a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Queensland, studying philosophy and English. He won the Monteith Prize for English in 1947 and Douglas Price Memorial Prize in 1948. He published his first book of poetry, Songs of the East Coast, in 1947. He graduated with first-class honors in philosophy in 1950. He was appointed to an assistant lecturer position in philosophy while he continued study toward his M.A., which he took in 1953. He was awarded a Birkbeck Scholarship to study at the University of London, where he took his Ph.D. in philosophy and, in particular, aesthetics in 1955. After returning to Australia in 1956, Vallis lectured in philosophy and aesthetics at the University of Queensland, rising to senior lecturer. He moved to the English department in 1965, where he would lecture on Romantic poets, especially W.B. Yeats' Aesthetics and Australian Literature. He retired as reader in 1981. His second book of poetry, Dark Wind Blowing, was published in 1961. He edited the Queensland Centenary Anthology with R.S. Byans in 1959. Vallis' poem would feature on the Queensland secondary school curriculum for many years. Vallis would be a writer-in-residence at the Australian Writers' Studio in Venice, Italy, organized by Bernard Hickey. His poem, Changi Chimes, has been translated into Italian for the journal Crosevia. He toured Queensland reciting his and others' poems, and invited poet and friend Judith Wright to visit the university to give poetry sessions in the mid-1960s. His lectures at the university during the 1950s and 1960s would feature spirited debates with colleague Cecil Hadgraft. Literary Circle Vallis was a member of a distinguished group of poets and writers, including Judith Wright, Gordon Fleet, David Malouf, Arthur Pryor, and Ken Hamilton. Vallis and Wright had a long-standing friendship, and he sought to have her work gain the respect he thought it deserved, especially in regard to the creation of the literary journal Meanjin. They co-edited Witnesses of Spring in 1970, the unpublished poems of Shaw Neilson. In 1958, Vallis' friend, Kathleen Campbell Brown, encouraged him to seek out architect Carl Langer to design a home for him in the suburb of Indooroopilly. Langer's design was praised for its economy. The house would be inundated during the 1974 floods of Brisbane and would be raised and moved to a higher elevation after the cleanup by a group of his friends. He maintained a second home at MT Tamborine for some years. Later life, after his retirement from the university, Vallis taught a history of opera subject to students of the Queensland Conservatorium of Music. He was the Brisbane opera critic for the Bulletin magazine. He also wrote for the arts pages of the Australian, and as an Australian critic for the British magazine Opera. He worked on the Australian Dictionary of Biographies team of writers for 10 years. Vallis died on 14th of January 2009 at age 92. Legacy of Poetry Award. The Queensland Arts Val Vallis Award for unpublished poetry is offered each year. He was honored with a footpath plaque in Albert Street, Brisbane, on the Queensland Literary Trail in 1996. Oral History Vallis was interviewed in 1980 by Hazel de Bourg about his writing and career. He also reads a few of his poems. He was interviewed in 1986 by Barbara Blackman about his life and early childhood. These interviews can be found at the National Library of Australia. Works Vallis Val Morty. Inglise Tom Inglise, 1901 to 1978, Auxilium. Songs of the East Coast, Angus and Robertson, retrieved 22nd of June 2016. Citation, CS1 maint, multiple names, authors list link, CS1 maint, numeric names, authors list link, Vallis, Val, Dark Wind Blowing, Jacaranda Press, retrieved 22nd of June 2016. Byans R. Les. Ed. Byans Robert Steele, 1899 to 1979. Vallis Val, 1916 to 2009. The Queensland Centenary Anthology, Longmans, retrieved 22nd of June 2016. Citation, CS1 maint, multiple names, authors list link, CS1 maint, numeric names, authors list link, Nielsen, John Shaw, Wright, Judith, 1915 to 2000. Vallis Val, 1916 to 2009. Witnesses of Spring, Angus and Robertson, ISBN 978-0 to 207 to 12005 to 3. Citation, CS1 maint, multiple names, authors list link, CS1 maint, numeric names, authors list link, Vallis Val Heart Reasons, These, Commentaries on 5 Australian Poet. Foundation for Australian Literary Studies. 9,780,864,432,803. That is all for tonight. Let the silence settle in. Sleep well.